Hello and welcome to the SC Playbook podcast, head of NRL Supercoach Round 10, proudly brought to you by Mortgage Choice SCW. I'm your host, Tim Williams. Another spectacular edition of Magic Round is in the bag. My first guest today is a bloke who he's come under fire for his performance across major social media channels over the last couple of days. So here with a chance to defend himself, Spy.
Yeah, look, jealousy is a funny thing. Actually didn't really see this narrative happening until probably Sunday night, Monday morning. I'm like, a bit of jealousy. I think NRL Physio may have started it despite an excellent hang, and our last two messages to each other being, I love you and I miss you, from one person each, at 4 a.m. and then again on Sunday. But he started it, and look, we're not going to get too deep into it. I will have a leaderboard later, but rest assured, anyone that captained me, you never have to worry. It's fine. It's fine. Did I take out the lead? That is still be determined. But nah, happy days, boys. One of the great weekends of all time, as always. Couldn't be bloody happier.
Yeah, no, look, you performed all right, Spy, and the people are out against you, but as always, you did deliver out there at Magic Round. My next guest on the show today has been off for about a month. We've got him back on deck. Maxi Bryden, he's absolutely firing after a huge round. He's also fresh because he wasn't at Magic Round. How are you, mate?
Hey, Timmy, man, I guess you could say I'm ready whenever you are, mate.
Ready for what, mate?
Ready to take over Playbook, man. I think 1685 this week. If you want any advice, mate, I'm here. Just send me a message. You got my number.
When you beat my rank, you can talk to me, mate, and we'll talk about a Playbook takeover. And to be honest, I'll probably palm it off to you by the time you take over me. So
maybe next week.
At least a couple of years away. Also with me on today's show, another bloke who he charged for a while. It was a bit touch and go there for a while, but he redeemed himself and he recovered at the last minute on Saturday night. Matty the Waterboy. How are you, Matty?
I'm good. I said it to you earlier, the show, suspiciously fresh.
Yeah.
Like way too fresh from what happened on the weekend. And yeah, probably will pay the piper in some other way later, but right now I'm pretty happy.
We watched the second last game, the Warriors and Cowboys together at Suncorp Saturday night. You went home for the third game to freshen up because I think you were wet and all sorts of things were going on, and we nearly lost you, but you dug deep as you tend to do at Magic Round.
Yeah, so basically what happened was Friday was a big one, and then I planned to have a big one on Saturday as well, obviously, but I got soaked when I was packing up all the boxes and everything was wet, like especially my shoes and socks, so I needed to go home at some point. I didn't want to leave at like 9:30 and then do all that and get back at 11. I wanted to get back at like 9:30, 10. So I went back, freshened up, and then as I was watching the footy, I started to just kind of doze off a little bit, and I just had it in my head the year of berating I would have copped if I didn't come back out. So, yep, got up, came out and ripped again, and here we are.
You dug deep, mate, and you got there. Huge round of Supercoach scoring. I mean, that's what you get right. You get to Suncorp Stadium. We always say that it's such a good service for point scoring, and I suppose it helped that there was the referee head high crackdown last weekend, and this week they were just like, let the points flow, despite rain and it getting a little bit chopped up towards the back end. Spy, how'd your squad finish up?
It's probably how good Magic Round is. I forgot to mention I scored the highest total in my entire career, 1,613. Very happy with it. Kalen Ponga, Sad Diavo, brought in Fletcher Sharp, and Dylan Lucas back. I was a happy boy at the Lord Alfred Hotel. I'll give you the tip.
Tough watch with the Spy on that Saturday Arvo when Fletcher Sharp went bang, bang, bang. But well played.
It was all happening. So, yeah, fired up and cracking around.
Surely some good green arrows in that, mate. I've seen a lot of people out there scoring like 1450 and saying they dropped like 3,000 spots. That was the nature of the round. I think the top score, I'll get to him shortly, but it was like well over 1,800. What's the rate now?
Into 5 or 6K, like, I'm coming.
You said last week that you felt good about your squad, but you needed to start seeing some green arrows. You've got them.
Yep. I've just been steadily on the incline or the decline, whichever way you say it, and needed that real big week, so now I need it again. Let's keep doing it.
And, Max, you've already touched on it, mate. You couldn't hold off 3 minutes, but you went huge.
Yeah, look, 1685, it felt good, and it was sort of one of those ones where people were messaging me who I was in head-to-heads and sort of leagues going, geez, mate, you're going all right. And it was sort of strange, like looking at it all come together because it wasn't really the result of like one amazing call. It was just the squad all just delivering what they should be.
What dreams are made of.
Yeah, and my trades last week were getting rid of Clint Gutherson, trading him to Fletcher Sharp, which was awesome. the cash swing on that alone was worth it. But see, one score 40, one score 125. That was great. And I also traded Jenkins, who I wasn't going to play, and I rightly projected that his role was going to come under fire for Bryden to Kalen Ponga. So I haven't ridden all this like Ponga cash drops. I dropped him in like round 4 and got him back, and he's almost put on a ton for me.
Got him, yeah, right.
So just between them, Teddy, Hines, Cleary, the second row all scoring well. Everyone just did a job, and then it all led up to 1685. So I was pretty happy with that, and the rank's gone up to 1309th overall. So just in your wake, mate, and I'm coming for you.
1300, mate. That's very cute. Cooper Stallions, 1,570 points. Not quite as big as you boys, but very happy with it. Into 738th overall. So ticking along nicely there. I had a bit of a tricky one on Sunday. I had the VC on Nicho Hines on Friday in the first game. I was sitting with the spy for that one, and I shit you not, I reckon, 7.5 seconds spy before it happened. I said,
max.
I'll give anything to see Nicho put Britton Nicker over, who I brought in as a super pod at about 2.2% ownership. Went bang, I said, thank you. And he had the VC on him, turned up, and I thought, easy loop this weekend. All of an hour later, Sandon Smith lasted about 5 minutes for his 0, which I'm like, okay, the flex will cover that. And then I was like, Royce, just come out and get me 25, 30 at best. Like, just give me something. Came out and got his 13. So I agonised over that. A little bit dusty on Sunday morning at the airport. Ended up captaining Payne Haas and allowed me to play Tamale as well, who went well.
Nice.
So it all ended up well. And
I got to the airport and sat with Timo, same flight, and he goes, I was just expecting maybe a little recap. Not too much. He goes, would you loop this? I'm just like, mate, are you kidding me? I'll just do whatever.
I had all, that's incorrect.
I actually said
wrong. I had all the calculations done for him, and I said based on this scenario, and he said, I'd be banking the loop points, and by not doing it, it banked me an extra 50 or 60 points. So Spy,
2 scenarios was about 2.5 too many at that point of the day.
Matty, how you tracking, mate?
Yeah, had my biggest ever score, and I'm very disappointed, which is unfortunate. I got mid 1400s, which in any other week would have been great, but fell about 2,000 spots, which is unfortunate. But it was my own fault. I sat here gloating last week about the great loophole thing that I did. This week it all came crashing down, and that's what you get for gloating. One of the 7 deadly sins. You shouldn't do it.
Supercoach gods can be cruel.
Yeah, it was fair. You shouldn't. I was sitting here, patting myself on the back. But this week I had Hines, and I thought, all right, I did what I did. Take the points again, and unfortunately the person I left off was Dylan Egan, who got 93. I had Royce Hunt. I had Sandon Smith. It was not great, but a lesson learned.
If gloating is one of the Supercoach 7 deadly sins, Maxi's going to score about 300 next week, I reckon, after your intro to this episode.
We'll see, mate. We'll see.
Guys, a big thank you to everyone that came along to the SC Playbook community meetup at the Caxton on Friday afternoon. A huge turnout there. I don't know if anyone actually would have been at the Caxton on Friday had we have not had our meetup. I'm pretty sure they were all there for SC Playbook. So, but guys, it was fantastic. Saying great good day to a lot of the faces, a lot of the subscriber faces there. People that supported us and just having a general yarn and a beer. So it was a cracker, wasn't it, Spy?
True champions, honestly. Everyone we met, I didn't want to leave the place. Good yarn with everyone, good to catch up, and everyone just a smile on the face, so happy days.
Ripping afternoon. We'll try and do that each and every year. Guys, for our Sydney and New South Wales based listeners out there, we've got a very, very exciting announcement coming next week for a big catch-up in Sydney. That'll be coming up later on in the season. Should be an absolute ripper, and it's also an SC Playbook first, something a little bit different. So stay tuned for that next week. On today's show, the Team List Tuesday Supercoach pointers. Plenty coming out of that one with Tommy Jenkins benched on the return of Bryden Toto. Jayden Campbell, he's made a very early return from injury. Hookers, people with Sandon Smith, Connor Watson, Peter Mamazelos. You're without a number 9 this week. What is the plan there? Bit of a pod watch, boys. We're going to name our top 3 pod and anti-pod plays, point of difference. That is for coming up and leading into the Origin period. Hot topics for the week is King-Togia, a must-have cheapie, despite there being no price changes for him in just his second game in the NRL this week. We'll drop our round 10 trades and skippers, and then wrap up with a few listener questions, looking at Viliami Kikau, whether or not his bye period special with that doggies draw, or whether he looms as a bit of a trap for that one and one to put a line through. Guys, our unlimited league leader, put it in H. Kieran, the coach, into second overall, scored 17.99 this week. Currently, we've got the 2nd to 7th overall ranked teams and 17 of the top 20 overall. Skilo, coached by Thomas, topped the week with 1,819 points. The weekly winner, Wade, he's a subscriber. He reached out, not actually in our league, so don't know what he's doing, but loves the product. And anyway, he won it with 1,868 points, which is enormous. And our in-house league, we found a bit of touch. Big week for us. We're into 4th overall. So
Nice. Well done, everyone.
Yeah, quite year and a half or so for the playbook, but we're just back to, where we belong, I think. But it's our job to stay there now, boys. So just keep the steel in the eye.
3 spots to go, and we've got to hold on to it. So don't lose the plot. Guys, for less than $2 a week, you can subscribe to the SC Playbook Premium offering. That gets you access to a ton of extra content and offerings across the SC Playbook network. Our WhatsApp community, of course, with late mail and team news groups. Our contributor-only group where all the contributors drop their updated trade and skipper plans and share our debates throughout the week and across the course of the weekend. Our head-to-head focus groups, Supercoach draft groups, Maxi spearheading that one for us. Plenty more going on there. And, of course, our extra premium articles on site each and every week. For more details and to subscribe, head to the menu at scplaybook.com.au and hit subscribe.
Interestingly, for $2 a week, and I do this sometimes, that's approximately $498 less than I spend on beer and whiskey Saturday and Friday. So it's an absolute steal.
That's for the season as well. So
I love that you just said like that was your budget for the weekend, and you were sitting here going like, why were people saying I was soft, mate? Because I would have thought you would have spent $1,500 if you were really having a crack.
Mate, I was on the 4X bitters, and everyone's like, what's this? Oh, it's the real beer of Queensland, apparently, not the 4X regulars. So actually not bad.
Nice.
Not a bad drop.
Yeah, didn't mind it.
All right, guys, team list Tuesday. Charlie Geimer starting on the edge for the Eels again. Just starting to tick over a little bit, little Charlie.
What did he get last week?
Oh, about 35 or something.
Oh, take it.
But his name to start again, played about 55, 60 minutes, so we'll take it at something. Hopefully he can earn a couple of bucks for those who weirdly still own him. Jeremy Marshall-King is out for the Dolphins. Donahoe comes in at hooker on return from injury. The big one though, boys, Jayden Campbell returns at halfback in place of Tommy Weaver, well ahead of schedule. He was listed, Maxie, you're on early mail duties for the Telegraph this season for Code Sport. Due back sort of around that 11 to 13. They got the buy-in round 12. We were sort of suspecting that maybe to be around 13. He's back well ahead of schedule.
Yes, way ahead of schedule. He was 13 all the way, and then Des randomly dropped in his post-match press conference that he was potentially back this week, and that's amazing news for me this week because I've held, and with so many Roosters on the bye, JC straight in.
It looks great now, Maxie, but, you know, in your own words, due back round 13, still miles away.
Yeah.
Why'd you hold this long? Just no replacements? Or?
Every single week, he's been the first guy I've looked at trading out, and every single week I hate who I'm looking at. And the fact I've got Adam Dewey, I've liked his matchups. And it's paid off for me so far. I mean, the obvious one was to go to Cameron Munster and just sort of set and forget for the season. But went against him, Dewey's outscored him in the last 2 rounds. So, yeah.
Was
1-0 to Max.
Was Campbell gone this week prior to that news?
It was a big chance that he would have been down to one of Dylan Brown or Munster. But, you know, again, I'll take it. I think that most people don't expect him to come back and average 70. But, like, he's a goal-kicking 5'8". Like, I think he's the only goal kicker in that position as well. So, yeah, I'm not expecting big things, but just the fact that he's fit and in warm body, he's playing.
Spy, I know you love Jayden Campbell. They do have that round 12 bye. A lot of people out there looking for a 5'8" still. You know, we sort of said prior to that injury, he probably looked like being the number one 5'8" option. Could you potentially go to before that bye, or do you just wait till 13 and go from there?
I'd want to wait to 13 if I can. We don't know if he'll goal kick. Like, we can only assume he will, but just coming back from injury, you're never 100% sure.
Can I tell you why he wouldn't? So he's got the Knights this weekend, which is good, and then he's literally got the 3 hardest teams in Supercoach essentially coming up in Raiders in 11, misses round 12, and then into Storm versus Broncos. So it's a disgusting draw for the Titans.
The Knights have, I think, still the second best defence in the NRL, I think.
Yeah.
They're just not scoring many.
So. Defence isn't the issue,
Yeah.
All right, at the Bunnies, heaps of changes there. Latrell Mitchell returns from suspension at fullback. Jamie Humphries from injury at halfback. Jai Gray shifts to the bench. Jai Arrow, Keon Klamatangi, they are at prop. Lachlan Hubner, he comes into the starting side. A good one for Hubner owners there. Break even is 60. Just makes him not an urgent sell. You can hold probably another week, see what his minutes are, see what his output is, and keep an eye on that one, as we will keep an eye on Keon Klamatangi, because we know how big he's gone in the past in that middle rotation. Big Red, Corey Horsburgh, he's been named for the Canberra Raiders. had a Category 1 concussion against the Melbourne Storm. The Raiders are disputing that and going to say that it was Category 2 to try and get him to play this weekend. So keep an eye on what happens there and whether Big Red gets named or if he's cleared to play, I should say, for the Raiders against the Doggies in that huge clash. Matty Burton returns also against the Raiders. Jacob Preston has been named. Preston going nuts. He is going to the judiciary tonight, boys. You're both owners?
No,
I'm
not an owner. I'm very jealous I'm not an owner.
All right, so to see devastated for Preston, devastated for the Doggies when that 3 to 4 week charge came up. Spy, if you're tuning in Tuesday night at 10 p.m, you'll know the result. Wednesday morning, you'll know the result. If he loses and gets 3 to 4 games, what's your plan with him? And if he's cleared, obviously you hold him. What's the plan?
Easy sell. If he's gone for 4 weeks, that's fine. And obviously an easy hold if he gets cleared. So it makes it pretty easy for us, I think. One
way or the other. And then the other thing there, I'm going to have a big chat with the Roo on Beers and Break-Evens later on this week about the back row selections at the Blues, because between Dylan Lucas, Jacob Preston, Malala Kwatu, it's very topical. Got a few ideas and a bit of word around that sort of what's going on there. So we're going to chat about those guys. At the Dragons, Dylan Egan, he starts again and played big minutes last week. A huge one for those who held on to Dylan Egan. Delivered as well with another try. Hamish Stewart starts at lock. Loco Pacifica Tonga, he's been named on the bench. Maxie, did I see rumblings in the WhatsApp group, a bit of Hamish Stewart love, or am I making that up?
No, you're not wrong there, mate. I might save it for my trade section, but he's certainly caught my attention.
Alrighty. Darlin Witani's Lesniak returns on the wing for the Warriors. Roger Tuivasa-Sheck has been named on the extended bench. Absolutely flying the Warriors without these two star outside backs. At the Cowboys, Ruben Cotter suspended for 2 games. Sam McIntyre will start at lock. At the Panthers, Brian Toe on the wing. Luke Garner remains at centre. Spy Tommy Jenkins. This one hurt. I thought that Tommy Jenkins has been okay for them. Look, we knew Luke Garner coming into centre. He was fantastic. But first question, are you convinced it stays this way? And secondly, just a blow for Jenkins. Matt, you said you sold him.
Yep.
I'm still an owner. I didn't play him last week, but with no McLean there, it just looked fantastic. What's your thoughts?
Yeah, as an owner, I think plenty of us didn't play him last weekend, but plenty of money to come if we can get some starts again. Named in the 17 jersey, could end up dead set anywhere. He could be out or he could be back in the centres. Garner could shift into a forward role. Time will tell, but fingers crossed just to take that cash.
I reckon he holds. They run Targo in the 17 jersey 2 weeks ago before Garner got knocked out. And Garner is like a very strong defensive player, and that's been the issue for the Penrith Panthers this year, has been that edge defence, particularly needing to line up a guy as strong as Garner is next to Blaze Talangi. So I reckon he holds, but if you're a Jenkins owner, if you can get him to a gun, you'd think about it. But otherwise, hold him this week. He's going to make cash, and he'll play round 12 bye with Brian Toto playing for New South Wales. So
and Dylan Edwards.
Yeah, so sell him in round 13.
Mate, he could be fullback in round 12 for the Panthers. So I'm with you, mate. You hold him through it, go through round 12, and then just reassess from round 13 onwards and get the number for that week. Mitch Kenny also returns at hookup for the Panthers. No Harry Grant still for the Melbourne Storm. Jake Trbojevic and Jason Saab return for Manly. I like this for Ruben Garrick with his combination on that right edge with Jason Saab. Gordon Chan Tong drops out. Tommy Taylor's the utility. Jazz Tavanga at lock. Jake Simpkin, one just catches an eye. We're going to get to hookers shortly, so he might come up in conversation there. In fact, we'll get to hookers right now. Guys, Sandon Smith and Connor Watson, both on the bye this week. Peter Mamazelos, he is out injured with a dislocated elbow or shoulder or something very painful, I'm sure. A lot of people without a hookup. Before we get into the options and what the plan is at hooker, we're not going to go through every single player, guys, but a question from Tane come in. Thoughts on running no hooker this week? I don't like the players in the position enough to be wasting trades there now and later on in the season. Spy, I'll start with you, mate. Could you just go without a number 9 this week and reassess next week and play Sand and Watson, whatever it might be?
Yeah, I'm happy to cop a week if you need to, and if you're in that boat. I think a bit of patience at times can pay off, especially if that nets you the right bloke in coming weeks. I'm not totally against. Not saying I'm all for, and lucky I'm not in that position, but I can see where the head's at in that sense.
Beauty of the flex, right? It'll drop out. Your AE comes in anyway, so you wouldn't be doing it long term, but for 1 week, I think it's manageable for sure. Maxi, what about yourself, mate, on the same question?
Yeah, totally agree. I mean, the other side of it is you get a free loop. If that's your situation at hooker. If you're absolutely desperate for a downgrade cash, you could potentially look at a guy like Riley Smith. But look, Sandon, even before he's 130, he was averaging 50 at hooker for the season, which is more than passable, particularly for what you paid for him. Watson, I do think is a sell just with his origin coverage. But again, there's only really a handful of options that you could go to, I think.
I'm with you. I think you sell Connor Watson just on account of, as you said, we've spoken time and time again in recent weeks about how many games the origin players for the Roosters will miss out on.
Yeah.
Sandon Smith, my plan, certainly after the big ton 2 weeks ago on Anzac Day was just to hold him probably through the origin period or until a real good option, if it were to appear, cropped up at number 9. I think I'm just going to stick strong with it. I've got Riley Smith as backup. I think, boys, it's not clear cut, but let's say you do want to play there this week and you don't want to go with a non-player. I think you pay up for the number 3 most traded in player this week, Cam McInnes at $582K. He's got a 62 point per game average and a break even of 41. Or you go down to Riley Smith, who's a big minute hooker at the Parramatta Eels, $302K, 50 points last weekend. He's averaging 33, but the last 2 weeks he's played, I think, 74 and 80 minutes, break even of 12. Spy, I can you go up to Cam or down to Riley? What do you reckon?
I think they're nearly the only two options you can do. Wade Egan's been outstanding, but now he's got pressure off the bench with a young fella coming in last weekend. So that just makes sense to me. Do one of those two. Even Riley Smith, I've no idea what the plans are with. I think it might be Brendan Hands returning soon. Whether he plays Reggie's or comes off the bench or doesn't play at all, I'm not sure. But I kind of like the idea of if you're not sure of what you want to do this weekend and you're not keen on Cameron McInnes, then maybe waiting could be handy. But, Cam McInnes just looks a pretty nice. Plug him in for a couple of months and then let him do his business.
Maxi?
Man, I completely agree, as boring as that is. I think why McInnes might not sound like the sexy option, just to sort of put Hooker in perspective for you this season, he has the 3rd best season average at the position. He's averaging 62, which is just 2 behind Connor Watson. And Egan, who's averaging 65, and everyone's been raving about how well he's doing. So it might feel like a downgrade. It might feel like a weird trade, but it's not. He's rock solid. If you bring in McInnes now, you could potentially hold him for the entire season because Hook has been yuck, and he's got decent buy coverage. I think 2 majors, 2 minors. That's what you want.
Yeah, it is boring, absolutely, but you go into his numbers and he's so rock solid.
Stress-free.
He's averaging 62 this year, hasn't scored under 50 all year. Last weekend, he had a try in his line break for that 90 points. It was his only major attacking stats all season. Yep. You're not banking on him getting them often, but he's a good player. He's a good ball player. He's a very mobile forward. He'll get the odd one from time to time.
Yep.
As you said, Maxie, that buy coverage is really good with the Sharkies. Has a base of 57. I shouldn't say out of nowhere. I think it just took the 90 score to really get our attention.
Yeah.
And to dig in and go, okay, there has been no attack. I think he's just the play unless... But yeah, I have no knock either way if you just want to go down to Riley Smith and spend that cash elsewhere, which is absolutely fine, especially if you've got I think Sandon Smith is a fine hold moving forward, but yeah, I think they're the two plays.
Yeah, completely agree.
I'm getting bloody lower and lower in this chair. Absolutely possessed anyway. Especially sitting next to Maxi Bryden, who's 10 foot tall.
I was only 9 foot last week, mate. That's what 1685 will do.
Yeah. So, yes, I'm with you, boys. Topic 2, pods and antipods. Let's start with antipods. So, we're looking, guys, here at antipods, the most owned players in Supercoach and ones that we'd potentially look at going against. So, I think the idea is we're going to name 3 each. You can name a couple others if you want that you're not keen on, more than willing to. We'll have a bit of a discussion around them. And then I think you boys have got a list as tall as Maxi Bryden. And we'll drop that in the WhatsApp group if we have extras. So we've got antipods. And then we've got the super pods as well, who will be the sub 10% guys, which we'll get to shortly. But let's start with antipods. Who wants to go first, boys? Spy or Maxi?
I'll let Maxi go.
Yeah. Maxi, you can take us
off. I don't need to say much here because we'll be very similar.
I think they will be relatively similar. I agree. I think super pods, there is an enormous list. Antipods, let's have
Just to clarify, we've filtered this by the top 10% of players, just to make it relevant.
Can you explain that, Spy?
How to do it, because I don't know how to explain that. It just means we've filtered by, you can go overall ownership, which will show everyone that's ever signed up for the game. there'd be so many people that now don't play anymore, they've fallen out, whatever it may be. This is an accurate representation because anyone coming in the top 10% would still be playing. That's basically it, unless you're absolutely killing it with your own run side and haven't touched it.
Yeah. So who's a popular player that got injured early in the year? Roger Tuivasa-Sheck or someone who had enough owners earlier in the year. People who stopped playing after 4 or 5 rounds would still have him in their team, and it just isn't right.
To make it even easier, to really clarify it, let's say everyone started with Nathan Cleary on any given year and he was 98% owned. Then he got hurt and was out for the season. He'd probably be like 30% owned come round 10. You go, what's this about? It's because people drop out playing. But yeah, it's just overly relevant. Get into us.
All right, well, the first one for me, I've really taken an approach on availability towards this. I've been staring at the buy round coverage like almost hourly for the last couple of weeks. And the first guy who is, I think if he makes the State of Origin side for Queensland, he's going to miss a lot of footy, which is Corey Horsburgh. He will only play 4 of 8 games between rounds 12 and 19 if he is away on State of Origin duties, which is half the games. Feels like he's peaked in price. He's still scoring well and he's like a fantastic depth play, but if you need to shift a player out of your team to bring in a better guy for buy round coverage, I reckon he's a fine guy to go against, and his ownership is absolutely massive. It's 81% in the top 10%.
How locked for the Maroons do we feel he is, boys? Corey Horsburgh spy.
I haven't looked deeply into Origin, but I don't think he's locked at all.
What are his chances, I should say?
Is there?
I reckon he's 50-60% chance. It's weird when you build the New South Wales side. Like there's so many guys you have to leave out. Like Queensland's not really like that.
They're coming off a loss. They want some fire and brimstone. So yeah, he's right in the mix, but he's not certain.
I would say more likely than not. And that's the interesting one, right, Maxie? Because you go, what are the Raiders got? They've got first major buy round. Don't have it in front of me, but at least the first major buy round. So you go Big Red if he
first and last. So if he does miss, he becomes great buy coverage. But I think he plays. I think he'll be there somewhere. Yeah, I agree. And I think that's the thing. It's like people are looking at the moment and going, when we get to the Super Pod, there's some great names there. I'm just saying I think he's a fine guy to sell to one of them. Yeah. Just given he's peaked.
And he's also like, he's good buy coverage, but he's rock solid and probably averages 65. But at the same time, you're not selling a bloke who's going to come out and go ton and destroy you in the meantime. So,
yeah, absolutely. The next guy I've got as an antipod, and this one's probably a little bit controversial, but he's James Tedesco. I don't have his ownership in the 10%. I did look overall, and it's only 14.8%, so he's not hugely owned, but everyone between now and round 12 is going to be talking about how to get him because, as we know, the Roosters play all 3 majors and all 3 minors. But putting the devil's advocate lens on it, they have buys in rounds 14 and in round 16. And he's obviously on the buy this week as well, which means that like the later, as soon as you get past round 12, he's only going to play 5 of 7 games. So when you get into round 13, he's only playing 5 of 7 games. When you contrast that to another guy who's low ownership at around the same price, it's Scott Drinkwater, he's going to play 7 of 7 games in that period. So 2 extra games on Tedesco. So I know a lot of people will do weird and awful things to break their sides and bring Teddy in for the first major buys, and rightly so want to hold him for that, and that's probably the sensible thing to do.
This is just personal agenda, mate, because you can't get to Drinky and you've got Teddy.
Oh, I mean, I can get to Drinky. I'm just waiting.
Why don't you do it then?
I'm waiting till round 13. I'm going to take my King-Togia money next week and then make Ponga. We have plans here, mate. That's it. I told you, I'm coming for Playbook, brother.
Can we talk Roosters' schedule as well? We've talked buys and when they don't play. The next games of who they actually run into are also Bulldogs, Sharks in round 12, who won't lose a heap of players. They'll be strong.
They won't lose a player, I don't think.
Well, Canberra, obviously going really well at the moment. Then they run into the Knights round 15, who
can defend.
Won't lose a heap of them. Again, can defend. Like, it's not like they're coming into games against, cracking matchup in the major buys, could go mental. Of course, Teddy could because he's class, but it's a very tricky run.
Yeah,
for the,
exactly
for the
right.
Chooks.
And that's the thing. It's like for me, it's do you break your team to get him in round 12, or do you just wait till round 13 if you don't own Drinkwater and just go there and just get that availability, which is we know is the best ability. So
for what it's worth, as a non-Teddy owner, I was just going to wait and see round 12 and just see what happens from there. And like, I'm also in a position now where I don't really want to trade any of my fullbacks. Round 12, Pong gets picked for Origin. Let's just reassess then as a non-owner. So that's my plan.
Yep.
Also keen to see him against the Bulldogs next week. It's just a bit of a free look against a quality side because their run they've had so far has been immaculate.
Bit of a side note, looking sharp, Spy.
Yeah, got me
this
flano on today. New addition to the wardrobe.
Pretty fresh flano.
Don't mind it. Yeah, a couple of weeks old.
Love that.
Step it up.
Good from you.
All right,
Thank
final
you.
antipod for me, Nathan Cleary. 96% owned in the top 10%. He's going to be about 760K after the end of next round. And they've got, obviously, the bye in round 11. He'll miss round 12, which is the only origin game for the Penrith Panthers. He does have an okay run in round 13 and 14. The Panthers run in...
Okay.
Well, Eels is good, mate. You've got to put some respect on the Tigers' name, please, especially while you're sitting next to me. But it's just coverage. Like, this guy's going to miss games of footy. The only thing, I think originally, like, because again, you look at an okay run. Have a listen to the run for Jerome Hughes. Round 13, Titans into Cowboys, and as good as the Cowboys are going in attack, they can still leak points, as we saw on the weekend. Into Rabbitohs in round 16 as well for Jerome Hughes. If Hughes was going better, I'd pull that trade in a second, but I think there is an opportunity to go against Cleary throughout the origin period.
I think the other thing is, mate, I want Jerome Hughes. He looks like he's a bit battered and bruised, but my sort of rough plan with Cleary is a short-term sell, especially if I can bank a couple of trades, which I banked one last week. If I can bank a couple over the next month or so, was to hold for Eels Tigers, who then miss round 15.
16's in New Zealand, that away game on
and
Saturday.
Origin 2's in Perth, so I reckon he sits that with his history of hamstring injuries. Doggy's round 7 he comes back for, misses round 18. Then let's see if he backs up round 19. So my rough plan, I'm not against selling him next week for Jerome Hughes, but it'll sell round 15 because he misses minimum 3 of 4, maybe more, including that Eels game, and go from there.
Halfback roulette, mate.
Yeah, it is halfback roulette. Yeah.
Although I'll give you the hot tip. I did that at the end of last year between Sam Walker and Hughes, and picked up Sam Walker's ACL injury and missed Hughes' like 160 against the Finns. But it doesn't always go wrong, man. So I'm backing you in.
Spy, anyone to add?
I do have 2 actually, so we've done all right here. Cameron Munster, I've noted down. Just because of that origin period, Melbourne aren't going as well as I thought they might be coming into Origin, so more incentive for him to back up. I have noted quite a lot of positives on him. He can launch at any stage. The 5'8" spot's not ideal, but for example, I want Jayden Campbell back, so it may just be a straight swap, Munster to Campbell. Does he back up from Origin, all of them? We don't know. So just a question mark around Munster. He's not flying at the moment. He does look fit and healthy, though, and I think probably a big score is coming around the corner.
I will say, no way would I sell Munster this week.
I think we're talking, sorry, to clarify, come Origin.
Yeah, but sorry, and this is probably more to a King-Togia point for anyone doing, because people are selling Munster this week. Not to disrespect your Tigers, Maxie, but Sunday afternoon down in Melbourne after one of the most ill-disciplined performances from the Storm in a long time.
Good weather, I think.
Luck.
Yeah.
Good weather, and I tell you what, Tigers are due a down game. They've been up and up. So.
Another thing on Cam Munster, because I had him on my list too, Spy.
Yep.
Round 13 post-Origin 1. They play the 3 p.m. game on the Saturday against the Titans, a game they'll be backing themselves to win without him.
Yep.
Huge chance of rest there. Round 16, they play on the Saturday again. It's the late game, but it's still on that quick 3-day turnaround. And then round 19, they're on the Saturday at 3 p.m. So it's not ideal for their Storm players, particularly Cam Munster.
Just note on that round 13, that Titans game's in Queensland.
Yeah.
So is the State of Origin game.
It's not too far to go, at least.
No.
Moving on.
And my final one, just looking at Sandon Smith, who after last week, you would have thought he scored 150 odd. But I didn't realise that what we just spoke about, the Roosters draw. I didn't realise how good it had been and how hard it does get. So I've gone from absolutely holding Sandon to maybe not. That tough hooker position, which makes it a little bit tricky. Maybe you've got him at halfback, I'm not sure, but he's got a 0 in his 3-game average now. The price rises we were going to make have been halted. He's about to go backwards, barring another really big score. Plenty of buys incoming. Sammy Walker returning at some stage. Assume takes over the goal kick immediately. Yeah, I'm going to keep an eye on Sandon Smith. And again, I'm not saying it's this week, but maybe after that first buy, reassess and see what happens. Yep. But Sandon's interesting, which hurts me because I love watching him, but we'll just have to see what happens with him.
Fair play. The other one I've got is actually in my potential trade plans this week. So we'll get to him a little bit later. Boys, on our Super Pod players, and this is one is the list is here to Kingdom Come. So we'll name our top 3 and then post the rest of them on the WhatsApp chat.
Done.
Maxi, hit us.
All right, first one, and for me again, really favouring 3 teams, particularly over the Origin period. The first is the Roosters. I mean, we've just spoken in depth about the pros and cons, but you can't ignore the majors and the minor buy coverage. It's good. The next 2 teams, of those 6 key rounds of major and minor buys, most teams will play 4 of the 6. There are 3 teams who play more than that. So the Roosters play 6 of 6. There's 2 teams who play 5, and that is the Cowboys and the Newcastle Knights. So both the Knights and the Cowboys play 2 majors and all 3 minors, which is elite. So essentially, again, you talk about availability. I've really kind of factored into my calculation. So the first super pot I've got for you is a guy who averaged 65 last year, but he was only priced at about a 58 at the start of the season because he did his hammy 4 times in game. It's Bryden Best. He's bumped up that average to nearly 70 this year so far. People are sort of going, geez, he's having a good season. I mean, I think this is who he is. He's got good base and power and he knows how to find the try line. He was 20 centimetres away from adding an extra 20 points to his score last game as well with a pass that just fell in front of Greg's hands. Would have seen him go 120. He's doing really well and only 3.5% owned. I don't think he's playing Origin, so I think he's going to be a really nice option of that period as a pod. The next guy I've got, and he doesn't play for one of those 3 teams I mentioned. He actually plays for the Parramatta Eels, but this sort of clicked for me on Monday morning, and listeners to the Early Mail podcast would have picked up on this tip. Left wing at the Parramatta Eels, right?
Fly.
It's always been a good spot when you've got Mitch Moses and Dylan Brown in the seat. There was a guy in there for the last couple of seasons called Mike Acevo. Heard of him? He was always criticised for having a poor work rate, but had an amazing ability to find the try line, right? Josh Adokar is exactly the same player, just does it in a different way. He's not going to blow your mind with amazing base and power stats, but he can sniff out a try line like no other with his pace. And in the shape that the Eels are still able to throw up with those 2 halves, since Mitch Moses came back, he's averaging 100, right? 2-game sample size, yes, granted, but he's 600K and he's in 0.1% of teams. He's got a negative break even. He plays the first buy and all 3 minors. JAC Superpod, I don't hate it as much as I thought I did when I saw the data.
Yeah.
And the final guy I've got before I get your reaction now, I want to see if you guys can guess this. So I'll tell you him. He is in 0.1% of teams. He was in 15 teams this morning. I've told a few people this. It might have gone up. He's averaging 48 on the season. He's priced only at a 41 because he had an HIA game in there. When you look at his real average, it's 55, 40 base power. It's a CTW. The right wing real estate at the club that he's playing in, there was 23 tries at right wing in 2023 to that. To end last season.
Schiller.
Yep. There was 8 tries in 6 games to Fletcher Sharp. I'm talking, of course, about James Schiller. 432K. He's having a better year than you think. He's dirt cheap. He's only 430K. It's
due to injury impacted game, was
HIA.
it?
HIA against
it happened
Bulldogs.
very early, didn't it?
HIA against Bulldogs, he scored 1. So again, you take that out. He's priced at about a 41 and he's averaging 55. So there's already 14 points of value. You know how much I love finding these value guys. They've got elite buy coverage.
Good way to get him too.
Yeah,
just
the Knights come to life. The right winger against the Gold Coast Titans has just scored a hat-trick in back-to-back weeks. And this is a little bit of a smoky for you. Chance to goal kick in 2 major buys because KP's out. So James Schiller, I felt a lot more confident about this before hearing that Dom Young news today about him getting released from the Roosters because there's a good chance he could end up back on Merriweather Beach. But James Schiller, what do you reckon?
Good numbers.
Great numbers, aren't they?
Very enticing.
You know the funny thing? Isn't it interesting, the entire Knights backline you can make a case for?
Yeah.
Marju, obviously, Bryden Best, you've just done it. We know what he can do. Dane Gagai, he's a smoky as well. We know what he's done in the past.
Cheap,
How good his base is.
511K.
Schiller, and this is a side who, I mean, they scored points on the weekend, but
And half
the
their
Bunnies who had
forwards.
no one.
How does it work?
I know,
It's
what's
crazy.
going on?
Yeah, well, I think I've sort of spoken to a lot of people about this, and the theory at the moment is firstly, they keep the ball in play a lot because they play a pretty boring style of footy, but most of their points, everyone goes, they're not scoring tries. But they're also breaking tackles probably more than any other side, and now they've got a lot of boys in that backline who love to offload, and offloads add up, right? They're worth a lot of points in Supercoach, and that's the thing with Schiller as well. Base power average of 40. So even everyone goes, oh, he's just a flyer. But no, he's breaking a lot of tackles as well. He hasn't had an offload yet either, but he's breaking a lot of tackles.
You know the funny thing about James Schiller? I don't mind the buy, yet he's my 5th out of 5 picks in the Knights back 5 as a buy. I'd pick the other 4 before him, even taking into consideration price. I get it though, yeah.
Yeah, and that's the thing for me for price. And when I thought about it, particularly with respect to a guy like Billy Smith, who, after looking like Superman for the 2 weeks that no one owned him, he's come back and looked like an absolute, more like Clark Kent.
Jimmy Olsen.
He's 30K. If you've got too many Roosters and you're worried about their buys in between those Origin fixtures, it's a very short walk up to a potentially goal-kicking James Schiller.
Fair enough, mate. Spy your list.
You could tempt me into that this week. I did have Bradman Best for the record.
Nice.
Really like it.
Good taste.
And for what it's worth, Gagai and Pierce Paul I wrote down as well. The Knights, they're strange, but there you go. My 3, Toby Couchman. He'll be around 600K pretty soon. We might be looking to move on one of the big dogs potentially for a heap of cash and a really, really viable player. So Toby Couchman I quite like.
Couchman doesn't excite me that much just because front rows are going so well. There's higher upside reps. Like, I think he'll be that rock solid 65, 70 average, but he also plays pretty decent minutes. So I feel like if the Dragons are up by a bit or down by a bit, he probably gets early showers. Rock solid. I just feel like there's better upside players to go to. For what it's worth, any other year, front row forward, absolutely lock him, keep for the season. But front row forward is like going bonkers this year. I'm not excited by him because of what's going on around there.
Yeah, one to monitor. I think come buys. If you need a number at value, it could be it. Mark Nwanganita-Wase. Only issue is that Roosters lineup. I'm so torn on, do you get him? Do you take that excellent buy coverage in terms of the big weeks? Deal with the buys?
I reckon you can fully buy Mark, and he's an awesome buy. The only reason I haven't considered it myself is just because of how many other Roosters I own. But if you're shedding other blokes from that outfit...
I don't own many, so he's a big watch for me.
He's only 609K too, which is a good value.
I'd love to watch him against the Bulldogs again, just to see how he goes on the right wing.
Do you own Toya and Billy?
Only Toya. Didn't get Billy.
Well played, Spy.
Yeah. My issue is, left centre, he offloaded nearly every time he got the ball and tackle busted. On the right edge, it's just a bit different. It's a different role in terms of less tackle bust and offloads, just of where he is on the field, but more tries.
Yeah, to say the bleeding the offs, like we've got double on the weekend.
But yeah, they play the Dolphins, who aren't defending overly well. Bulldogs coming up, then Sharks, Knights.
Yep. Who
That's
else?
my decision. And Kaeliro, I think there's a lot of hype of him, Magic Round, but we know how good he can be. Plays the first 2 major buy rounds, 700K outside a hot Sharks outfit, losing no one.
Scored a try in every single appearance this year, has KL.
Jeez.
Yeah.
Yep.
Work rate is down compared to last year. He's scoring tries, so they're my 3 boys. And I've got plenty more, but I'll post them on WhatsApp.
Yep, Jesse Ramey, and I've got a stat deep dive on him on Beers and Break-Evens later on this week. Leka Halasima, 448K. I will preface this by saying I'm not getting him in, but he's unbelievable. Played 80 minutes last week. He's destructive. He's 4.3% ownership. I just think he's going to be such a good Supercoach buy. Buy coverage isn't fantastic for the Warriors. 2 weeks ago, he only played 40-odd minutes, so that's a risk as well. But if he keeps an 80-minute role, oh my goodness. Kaipis Paul, you mentioned him, Spy. You actually mentioned him 2 weeks ago and sort of pricked my interest a bit.
You bagged me 2 weeks ago, actually.
You were bagging me
I
2 weeks ago.
I didn't bag you.
You did, I reckon you did.
I laughed at you.
We'll get the tape.
I laughed. I've just been laughing at you and bagging you. No,
Anyway, carry on.
yeah. No, I did. But you didn't read out his numbers before. 607K, 64-point average, 50-plus base in his last 4 games, locked into that 80-minute role, hasn't scored a try this season, 2 tries this, 0.9% selection. So
Offloading this year too.
I'm sorry I laughed at you, boy. He's not a bad shout.
He's a real deal.
The problem is how many nights can you own? Like, if we're talking Sharp, Lucas, Marju, Ponga,
But again,
I'm not putting another one in there.
I agree with you in principle, but when you think
They're
about this
scoring well.
buy period, like this buy period is literally like a battle of survival in so many weeks. And just by having quality guys on the paddock and not just absolute, Riley Smiths, in those minor buy weeks in particular, you can really make moves up the rank. They've got no buy until round 18. In round 18, if you've got 6 of them, you get
Sell a
3
few.
trades that week.
Yep.
I'll throw another one at you.
And the draw's good. Their matchups are good too.
I'll throw another one at you. going through, I've done my numbers on the major and minor buy rounds, cruising.
Yeah, I've already got 14 for round 12, so...
I think I do pretty well all of them already. Like, there's been a bit of planning, obviously, but pretty effortlessly.
Yeah.
So when I sit there and I go, like, I don't want to overcommit to them. I speak about buy-round plotters that hurt me last year. Ironically, Kaipi's Paul was one of them because he scored terribly through it. I'm just like, do I see him as a keeper? Not really, but he's scoring well, so do with it what you will. And the numbers this year are fantastic. I'll get through my other couple quickly, but Bronson Sherry, a 60-point average, plays all three major buy-ins, 34 in base. His 0.2% ownership. I've gone like super duper pods. 0.2% owned, 600k, a break even of 110 as well. He had a poor score last week. So yeah, plays all three of the majors, including the Dolphins, the Eels, and the Bunnies. So just a reliable one there for coverage. Obviously, you wouldn't do it this week with that BE, but if we can get him sort of 550 or a bit less, I don't mind that. Lehigh Hopewide is the other one. 3 games at fullback for scores of 78, 46, 87. Tommy Turbo, I don't care what anyone says, he'll play Origin if fit. That means he'll miss 12. I reckon he probably misses 13, 15, 18. Lehigh plays all of them at fullback. Don't mind him at all. And just the other one to keep a little eye out for, Tallis Duncan, 80 minutes on the edge last week.
Good player.
In Matty's words, was in a very poor performance. They're best on field for them. 0.1% ownership, 387k. Just one to monitor with Keon moving to the middle. Now, guys, we all know the biggest event of the year took place on the weekend on Caxton Street, but lost in the excitement of all of it, there was a federal election of sorts that had a few people talking to. In the lead-up, there was plenty of chats from both parties and how they'd help out first home buyers. The election, it's been done and won, so what does this actually mean for those looking to get into the housing market for the first time? Plenty. There's big changes coming and it could help you get into the market a lot quicker than you'd anticipated. Chat to Paddy and his team at Mortgage Choice SCW to find out what you may or may not be eligible for. Normally, that'd sting you $129, but mention SC Playbook when you reach out and it's completely free of charge. To do so, flick the team a message on Instagram at mortgagechoice_SCW or give them a call on 02 9521 1611. Doesn't matter where in Australia you are based. Now, Spy, we said we were going to be a bit shorter tonight. We've just gone for bloody hours. So we've got a Spy talk, things you may have missed. We can't be too long, mate. What do you got?
I'm going to throw this straight to Maxi Bryden for a couple of questions from someone who wasn't at Magic Round. And then I'm going to finish with the final points tally for the Supercoach season for the contributors and the relevant people. Go.
How good. All right, so first thing I want to know about going to Supercoach.
Yep.
Sorry, no, going to Supercoach.
Magic Round, yep.
Going to Magic Round. You were seeing multiple games during the weekend that aren't for your team. So, like, what's the vibe like, considered that you're not sitting there watching the Warriors or, in your case, the two teams that you support every game?
The Wales were awesome because every New Zealander was there. Freaking brilliant. Just what I'd say, the whole vibe on Caxton Street, around the ground, events near the ground, pubs, whatever it may be, whatever age, and then going into the ground is just brilliant. And I think if you want and if you can afford it, you've got the 3-day pass, you can pick what games you go in and out of.
Nice.
Super cool, man. But, the Warriors, the fans were everywhere. I think they marched down Caxton Street in the rain. The top 4 of one of the pubs was all them. We met a few of the Waterboys from the potty and the radio over there. Very, very cool stuff. Now, that's your question. The vibe of Magic Round for everyone is just brilliant.
Great. Love that. Okay, question number 2. Now, this might be the shortest answer all time. Is the Caxton as much fun as it looks like on social media?
I think it all is. Like, sure, the Caxton's the famous one, the Caxton Hotel, but they're all just good. It doesn't matter where you go. There's different setups and they're all amazing. Just get there as soon as you can.
The Caxton lives up to the hype, but the whole street's lit in great pubs.
Yeah, and different pubs. You can mix it up, so it's top shelf.
Yeah,
and they close the road. For those that don't know, they close the roads. You're not worrying about any traffic. It's just brilliant.
Nice. I have been there, but not for a Magic Round, so it's an amazing spot. And the final question, mate, and you might wrap this up into your points table. Can you give us your MVP from the Playbook crew for the whole of Magic Round?
All right, I definitely can. And I've thrown a few personalities into this. I'm going to be honest, I did this as accurately as I possibly could because otherwise I'd just give myself 5 billion every weekend. And I was like, I tried my best and I even asked people how people were going and where they were and all that. So I was as fair as possible.
You really are the spy.
I know. Now, let's go bottom to top and everyone delivered. This is in an 80-minute performance. Think Supercoach. Rando, 110. Excellent performance, consistent all weekend, did his job, pleasure to be around. Guru, bang equal on 110. again, I thought he was consistent. I thought he did a job. He didn't set the world alight, but he didn't need to. He was just there for a good yarn and just to be around him. It was nice.
He's the glue of the side.
Yeah,
the front
he's
row
good. He just did his
away.
job, and 110 is nothing to shirk at. So that's good.
Luron Patera numbers.
Timmy Williams, 124. Pretty good display.
Better than last year.
What hurt him a little bit was I came down the stairs Friday night from the top of the Caxton. I was like, what are we doing? I was like, pretty tired, to be honest, at the moment. I was just trying to gather my thoughts. He goes, you're not going home? And I was like, well, fair enough. Tough to talk me into that. 20 minutes later, he went home.
I didn't say I couldn't.
Yeah. So that lost him points. But
I had to work the next morning, to be fair.
yeah, well, excuses don't get points either. But
Yeah,
124. Nick Moon, fellow Kuma boy and contributor. He was outstanding. He did a lot of what I'd deem the intangibles, 1%ers that you don't always see. 145, outstanding effort.
He was big.
Could have been more. I think he might have delivered some extra points on Sunday. So look for updates there. Matty, the Waterboy, 192. Massive display.
Jeez.
Came out on Friday. Had about 47 schooners by the 3 p.m. meet-up. But he was fine. He was just having the best time. Must say, your eyes were pretty shot. And I'm like, Matty's not going to last. He's done. Went upstairs to the Caxton after like 2 games of footy. And it was just him, and he ordered 3 jugs. I'm like, that's outstanding. That is outstanding. And he just kept going and pushed through on Saturday. Thought he wouldn't make it out, but did. And then rallied Sunday again, I believe. So just a career best performance from Matty.
Actually, good bonus points Sunday for Matty. I'll pay that.
Yeah, so fair play there. Not on my list, but importantly, NRL Physio, I reckon he's about 194 because when he delivers, he delivers. He did message me Friday and I said, where are you, mate? He goes, oh, Saturday is my big day. So I was like, oh, minus 20 immediately. But gee, he made up for it huge. The gear he was in, the kit, outstanding. He's the best, man. So 194, and he delivered huge on Sunday because I checked with my sources. The Spy, 196. I didn't get up. I didn't get up to the 277 Magic Round record of last year, and I possibly never will because that was career best. But 196. Again, it's the 1%ers that you don't see, boys, and you can ask the fans, the people. It's the little things I do along with the base consistency and attack. 196, but I've been pipped this year.
Wow.
Clementine Cassidy, admittedly in Golden Point, 5:30 a.m. Monday morning. How, I don't know. 201 points. Unbelievable. She actually, I got the train up with her from the Goldie on Friday. I'm like, there's no way she's going to make the train. I'm going to be stuck waiting because that's just how she goes. Calls me 4 minutes. I've come from a different station. He goes, I'm 5 minutes away. I'm like, we've got 4. She comes running down the stairs, flies through the gate, out of gas, could barely breathe. I'm like, well, that's actually fair play. Then later in the day, I got myself an early sin bin. I was actually in an Uber, tried to split the fare, hit the wrong button on a bridge and cancelled it. And old mate wouldn't take us to Suncorp. We had to hop out and get a new one. So I was in the bin early. And on top of Clem's line break, I'm not allowed to mention her being put on report, so I won't. But it is the Golden Point Sunday that I think did it. I had her covered, and she's just steamed onto the double ton. And anyone that captained Clementine Cassidy, I've got to say, too good, MVP.
Yeah, well done,
Yeah,
Clem.
well done, Clem. She banked big Sunday evening points as well.
Yeah, she's like, she added that attack to a base that is just out of this world.
We'll get her on the show in over the next few weeks or month or so when she's recovered. And actually, she recovers quickly. She'll be fine. And we'll get her recap as well. Very well done, Spy. Now, on to the hot topics for the show. And we'll whip through a couple so that we can get to some questions at the end. But the number one most traded in player, King-Togia. I do need to get the pronunciation of that first name. Apologies if that was wrong. But 198k, 83 points last week in his first game of the season. A negative 38 break even. Maxi, 5'8 only. Will be a good buy. I was a little surprised so many were going this week to him. You know, their job security is not fantastic. It's okay. The Dragons did lose. He had a couple of try assists, but I thought people would have waited a week, but they're going this week. What do you reckon?
I'm not shocked at all, just because there are a lot of people who are chasing the likes of a Scott Drinkwater or a Fletcher Sharp, these blokes who have gone up in price in the last week. I'm gonna wait a week. But I think the fact that like we know 5'8's disgusting. If you've got a Cameron Munster and you're trading out your backup to LKT, like a Dewey, even like a Brimo or someone like that, like I reckon that's play on, and I'll probably make my trade myself next week.
Yeah. Spy?
Yeah, I like it to facilitate something.
Yep.
There's absolutely no need to push it, but if you need to facilitate it, looked pretty good, didn't he?
For what it's worth, yeah, I don't like the Munster to King-Togia trade this week.
Absolutely
I don't like
not.
that ever.
That's the one that I will... I'm happy with my cash gen. I'm happy with my squad. I can't see myself playing King-Togia, if ever, really. I don't want to have to buy him. Like, I've got Munster and Brown there, and I'm happy just to run with that. I'm going to see what he does this week personally, and if he comes out and scores well and he's got a negative 100 break even, I'll just go Munster to him, flip him, and run that combo for a little bit. But I'm going to reassess a week.
I think if you've got a gun, you can pair him up there for sure.
Yeah. Next on the list, we'll go down to number 8, Suafa'alonga. We've spoken about a lot on here already. 527k, dual CT dub fullback, 112 points last week. He's averaging 89 across his 2 games, a negative 4 break even. Spy, I don't really like it on the wing. Job security issues, low base, very good footballer. I'm not around it. What do you
If we could get a word on Warbrick, I'm not sure what the story is there.
It's not just Warbrick, right? Like there's Warbrick, there's Howarth, there's Storm lost. Falungo, great in attack. Had a moment in defence. Granted, not much you could do on
Not a bad
there.
effort.
No, it wasn't
yeah.
a bad effort, but put it this way, he's not a good defender in the front line. He's very small. He's just not. And Craig Bellamy, points aren't going to be an issue for this side moving forward. Defence is. Actually, I don't like with Howarth, Warbrick, like
I will say,
Moses Leo.
it's funny how your mind can shift. You called me out for being a bit of a coward last week, and I took it on board and got attacking. This week, after a big week, I'm suddenly like, don't mind that attacking move of Fa'alonga and just having a bit of a crack for a few weeks. Unfortunately, it doesn't play around 12. I would have loved to have maybe a 3-week swing, take the price rise. If it doesn't come off, you sell him.
That's it. There's no buy coverage. This is 12 and 15.
It's frustrating because Tigers this week, but unfortunately, you might be buying him for a week or two.
Could go nuts this week. I just don't see it as more than a...
It's one for the people who love a Hail Mary.
I owned him last year for a period as a little pot at fullback when Pat Pulsaman was out. And at fullback, and he scored well enough and did an okay job. But even there, in a side scoring points, he was okay. He's now on the wing. I just don't love it.
Yeah, don't get him. If you're going to spend that much amount of money, get Dane Guy for 511.
There's a ton of better buys, I reckon.
Yep.
Could go well this week, though. Number 11, Lauren Pattaya, 232k. He's a front row forward is the key to this one. 75 points on the weekend, a 47-point average across his 2 games, negative 17 break even. And a question from Hurdy, who's sitting in 5th overall. Is it worth going Royce Hunt to Pattaya to get rid of the auto emergency nightmare Maxi?
It's a tough one, right? Because I think like Pattaya looked good, but he still only played 29 minutes. So I don't know if he isn't Royce Hunt, just in a different team. So look, he's going to make a bit of cash. He's going to play round 12. He probably plays round 16. Maybe he's on the bench all the time, right? But they've still got Scott Sorensen to come back. Which has forced IPAP into the starting lineup, and like that's where Pattaya's essentially like, a bit of his job security is coming from. So I don't hate it, I don't love it. I'd want to do something else, to be honest.
I'm with you, mate. When he scored that try and looked really good, broke about 5 tackles, went, okay, we might be on something here. And for the record, Hurdy mentioned the AE Nightmare, and congratulations on the 5th place rank as well, flying. But I'm with you. The minutes weren't there for Pattaya, and Royce Hunt, I essentially couldn't loop on the weekend because of that, combated with Sandon Smith head knock.
A little bit unique as well, Sandon getting 0 Friday night into a big VC. Like it all came together where Royce hurt you, but it's probably going to be unusual that happens.
And so Pattaya...
What are you? Answer this. Like, what are you doing with Royce Hunt? What's your plan?
I'm just going to leave him there and plot away.
I forgot he was even in my side. He stay there.
I'm not even to worry. I'm just... Unless a better option pops up that I actually like, and to be honest, at this point, I don't. Like my front row's set, and I can get someone at 2RF as well because I've got Tino and Horse and that, so I can move one of them up and get a cheap one there. So I'm just going to leave him there and go from there. Number 1 most sold player for the week, boys, Jackson Purdue, 638k, 63 point per game average, 46 break even. 100 break even, 46 points last week. Spy, he's been sizzling all season. You held, yeah?
I did.
What are you thinking?
thinking I'm going to sell him because there's so many good centre options. And having a look at his run coming up,
Because the question is, like, he's a gun, but he's young. Cowboys will lose a lot to Origin.
That as well.
Is he going? It's basically is he a season keeper or not? Because you got to make. He's peaked in price.
Put it like this: if the season ends and we say, "Geez, how good he averaged 65," I go, "Not shocked at all." 70 would be that's very impressive, but I just think there's so many centres I want. Yeah. I'm just going to move him onto one of them.
Maxi?
Mate, same. I think I had a look at him today. His base and power numbers are only at 35, which means that like this 63 average that he's done so far this season has been like had a lot of attack in it, right? And maybe you say, yep, the attack's going to keep coming because they play in North Queensland. It's a good track and they're in a side who knows how to attack. But like when he's such a short walk to a genuine keeper, like a Lucas, like a Gutherson, sorry, not a Gutherson, like a Kiraz, like I reckon you make the leap.
Yeah. I think you're right. And I wrote my article this afternoon and I sat there going, I think it's 3 of the next 4 in Townsville. I think he was scored almost close enough to a try game. Like he's killing it, but I think you're right. As much as you think he's a gun and maybe they're going to lose so many over Origin. So
he keeps drinky though.
He keeps drinky.
He can deliver some handy pill that left edge.
But they'll lose like Dearden, Taulungi, who's outside him. Nanai.
It's a most
Cotter. Yeah. Like they lose a lot.
It's pretty depleted.
Clint Gutherson, lots of questions around him. Maxie, you bit the bullet last week, and that was an interesting one because last time you were on this podcast, you were all over the King. He's down to 643k with a 79-point average, but importantly, a 3-round average of 48 and a B of 125. Talk us through why you cut ties, mate, and would you be doing it again this week?
I thought there were better options than him, and I think it's sort of, you got to recognise trends, and the trend at the start of the season was that he was really highly involved in their attack, and they were going to particularly the left a lot, but he was sweeping on both sides of the ruck. They haven't really done that since like round 4, basically because he's become a really good decoy for them, and they're just finding other ways to attack and score points. So, I think he's not in the best 3 fullbacks. I think the beauty of the flex is that you don't have to turn him into a fullback either. You can turn him into another player. And that's like what I did last week. I went for him to Fletcher Sharp. I loved Fletcher Sharp's base. I loved the draw. And I was scared of Gutho's BE. I'm really glad I pulled the trigger then. And I would probably recommend people pull the trigger now because you're not even getting around 12 coverage for Gutho. Like, it'd be a different kettle of fish if he was going to be like a potential VC option for a buy round, but he's not. So I'd be jumping ship.
He's a sneaky round 13 buy at a bargain price.
With a good draw too.
Does over because they play, I think, 15 and 18, the Dragons.
Yes.
So he becomes an option then, but I think just with the form and the options available, you probably have to cut ties. Boys, trade and skipper plans for round 10. Spike, kick us off. What do you got?
All hinging on Jacob Preston, boys. And I'm also, it's that time of the year where I really do need to nut out at least a guide to my plans for the next month or so. I haven't done that yet this year, trying to fly by the wheel a little bit and just take it as it comes. But it is that time of year it needs to knuckle down because I don't want to be bringing blokes in and they go, I don't need them. I already have these numbers for around 12 and 15, so it's really important I do that. But if Preston is banned, I'm having a little look at going him to any of those pods we mentioned. There's so many of them. Maybe it's Mark Nwanga Nitawase, maybe it's Pierce Paul, could be anyone really, which would allow me to do Purdue straight to drink water. So whether I do that, whether I do nothing, I don't know yet. I'm not definitely going to trade this week. There's a lot on the cards, but it's really, really hard to figure it out until we know what happens with Jacob Preston. So do with that. VC and skippers. Got a bit of confidence back this week, so I might even just go the old school VC Kalen Ponga into Ryan Pappenhausen. But again, there's a bit to play out. We'll see how the weather's looking and see how things are feeling. I always get a touch worried that Pappy's going to hurt himself early in the game or something, which is why I love doing a VC Pappenhausen into a Mayhaas. It just feels so safe. But boys, a bit to unfold, I'll tell you, in the coming days. Will be obviously noted on WhatsApp once I figure that one out. A bit to play out.
Maxie?
For me, I am first trade is selling Connor Watson. Thought long and hard about this, and I'd love to hold him, but he's going to play like 4 of the next 9 games or something like that, just with his state of origin duties. He should still play decent minutes in those mini buys because he's playing off the bench for New South Wales, but I want more players in that period who are going to turn up more. And for me, it's a really short leap to get to Eli Katoa, who I haven't owned so far this season, and he's gone below 70 once.
Yeah. Mate, he must have been a hard watch. Like, as an owner, I'm watching that every week.
Oh, yeah.
The amount of times he's offloaded or been like ankle tap before the line, it's a miracle he hasn't had more tons in him.
Yeah, he's legitimately one of my favourite players. He's certainly one of my boys, Spy.
Love it.
not letting you steal him. And he's in the draft side as well, so that always helps. But I feel really safe bringing him in, set and forget for the rest of the season. The Storm have got a fantastic run from rounds like 13 to 19. Really, really good. So I'm expecting him to up that average as well. So that's the first trade. The second one, and for me, like, I love building depth and I love just keeping my cash regenerating in ways that like aren't going to hurt me. And the guy that I have been trying to move on is Tom Cant, just because he's sitting there about 430k or something like that, not doing anything. And I came across Hamish Stewart, who, being a Tigers fan, I watched extremely closely in the opposition last week, and I was really impressed. So he started at lock. He played 48 minutes. Hard to know if that was the plan because there was a late Emre Gula dislocated shoulder.
Yeah.
But his base and power were 54 in that game, which was rock solid. And like, again, Dragons fans, like, I've got to be so stoked at the moment looking at the likes of Egan, Stewart, the Couchmans come through. Like, these kids look like men and play like men. So I was really impressed. He's starting at 13 again this week, and he's cheap. He's only 321k. Front row forward only at the moment, but he will get the duel in round 12 if he gets another game at lock next week, which I'm expecting, particularly because we know Thomas Sangstar, responsible for the duels, Dragons fan. He'll be keen as mustard to make that happen. Makes sense for my squad. So fit him in, 2 majors, 2 minor buys. I like that as well. So getting rid of an inactive piece, banking 100k in the trade as well with Cant down to Stewart. So I like it. I feel like
What's your expectation of him?
If he can average 55 or 50 at lock, as a guy who's still just going to be growing into first grade, then I'll absolutely take it, because then he's going to make me 100 to 150k from his current price and be a valuable buy number, like just another depth number. And more than anything, like, I bought Kalen Ponga last week knowing that I will want to turn him into Scott Drinkwater in round 13. So I've got to start getting that cash coming in other ways. And even looking at other guys like Tarpany that I want to buy, like, I've got to just keep the cash coming in.
Yeah, I see the reasoning for it, and I don't hate the trade, but I do feel like you're basing it off one game of 47 minutes where, like, you mentioned his base and power was great. He scored a try in that as well, plenty of attacking stats that he hadn't had throughout the year as well. Obviously got a high opinion of him down there at the Dragons, but he does reek me with like a bit of job security concerns, not necessarily for the 17, but could easily be a 30-minute bench forward at any time. Like, best case, maybe makes 150k. You will very rarely play him. You're getting that much out of him?
Yeah, I think I am.
Fair enough.
I think if I can get a 50-point scoring guy for, 320 grand, like, I'll take that most days of the week. So he's fine. He builds depth. Gets rid of a non-player.
I like your depth player, you know I do, but Okay.
No, I'm into it.
When Maxi finds value like that, he doesn't even ever have to play him. He just sleeps better at night.
Yeah, absolutely. And particularly like this week, like, looking at my side, I've got a lot of Roosters, so he will most likely be a play for me this week. So yeah.
Okay. I actually have enough cash to buy News Corp by the end of this season. For myself, I might make 2 trades, but 1 trade for the moment. One of potentially someone like Corey Horsburgh or Savelio Tamale. I could potentially do a couple of other options there as well, but I'm just tossing up between Lucas and Sharp. And I could do both boys, I could, and make a few moves. Sharp is going to make more money this week, and I do love the attacking upside of, like, head-to-head between them two. I think Lucas is the better buy with the better dual positioning, in my opinion, and just Lucas is definitely a season keeper. The one worry I do have with the Knights is what we said earlier, is that they beat a depleted Bunnies outfit. Before that, they couldn't score a point. That being said, and like, even in those games, Sharp was scoring the odd try they would get. So for what it's worth, I think they're both great buys. Probably leaning towards Dylan Lucas. But yeah, look, they might even potentially bring in both of them. I'm just don't really want to overinvest in the Knights, but their draw is so good, boys, as you said. So noted. And captaincy for me, Kalen Ponga VC. I'm not even thinking twice about it. I think Ryan Pappenhausen, Santiago against the Tigers.
Straight into it, double
Can't
up.
go past.
Your skippers? Did you say?
Yeah, same KP into Pap.
Matty the Waterboy. Sorry, mate. Matty's gone. All right, cool. Few listener questions, then we'll wrap it up for the week. First question's a ripper, actually. From Bubba Tim Matley. Would you prefer Spy to be ranked 1K overall, and that's not in the top 1K, that's 1,000 on the
Bang
dot,
on.
and have max traded? To my math, correct me if I'm wrong, please don't because I could be, that means you've used 21 trades this season and you have 25 left. Or would you prefer to be ranked 5K with 2 boosts left and 30 trades left?
I think there's not much in it, especially
not
given
much,
the
yeah.
gap this year. But it's always hard not to take the points in the bank. It's a bit like a game of cricket. I think Matty mentioned it last week. It's like sometimes you just want the points in the bank, then you can build from 1,000th from there. But I mean, if you're sitting in 5,000s in that hypothetical, you're feeling pretty good, I reckon. You're coming. But it's always easy to be already there and then build than potentially come from behind. So, yeah.
Maxie?
I'm a romantic, mate, so I love the underdog story. So give me 5K, a couple of boosts, and 30 trades any day of the week.
I'm with you, Maxie. Especially, as you mentioned, so this year, the gap 1 to 5K, it's
Yep,
not that
fair.
big. 5 extra trades. Like, if I'm sitting in 1,000 I have max trade, I'm going, geez, look, I need to save some at some point. So I'm taking the 5K with a few boosts and 30
Yeah, fair.
trades.
I also thought about it for 6 seconds, but it's a great hypothetical.
Question from the great Anton Posser. Speaking of Wars fans, with Preston bracket potentially gone, I'm thinking the Doggies shift left a bit more, and I'm looking at Viliami Kikau. He's got good buys and no chance of origin. Am I onto something, or is he going to be irrelevant again in 2025? P.S. Congrats on surviving Caxton Street. Thank you, Anton. Spy Kikau on the radar with that the draw, and he's also starting to bottom out in price a little bit after a few poor weeks as well.
Yeah, good stuff, Anton. And also congratulations on Caxton Street for surviving me. Funny, nah, shit.
You've had better.
Had
Not
better?
much, but
Not much better, yeah.
not your best.
With Kikau, I kind of just get the gist that he has his weeks where he goes big, but if you probably looked at his averages over the last 5 years, they're probably somewhat similar. I don't think they're going to go left much more. Doggies are so loaded. They'll have someone there to step in and do a job. So I think whatever Kikau's done for the last 5 years, you can expect about the same.
For what it's worth, with Anton's question, regardless of Presto or not, like he's starting 80-minute edge back rowers.
Yeah, I'm not mad keen on him.
Maxie?
No, not for me. I know a lot of people were talking about it maybe 2 weeks ago and they were pretty excited, but I think, as you said, you know what you're going to get with him. If he averages 65 this year, then that's basically his best year ever in Supercoach. I don't think it's going to be anything more than that, and it's most likely going to be less.
Yeah, I don't mind it. If you can get down, like, break even 79, price 557K, dropping in price, tough game against the Raiders this week. If he gets down to sort of 525, 30, plays all 3 major buy rounds, attacking upside, don't have to play him every week. Playing for softer matchups. He's an 80-minute man. They do go to him a lot. I don't mind the play, but he's certainly not one that I need in the next couple of weeks.
Yeah, you watch a couple of weeks and then he might be a cracking option.
I wouldn't talk anyone out of it, to be honest, but it's not for me.
One from Wade Spear, long-time follower of SC Playbook. Ruben Garrick or Fletcher Sharp if you could only have one Spy.
Fletcher and who was it, sorry?
Garrick.
Fletcher.
Maxie?
I think, again,
there's not
this
much
is now
in it.
fighting the romantic in me. Sharp is the romantic option. It's Ruben Garrick, right? Like, he's the pedigree.
I bet there'll be nothing between them.
No, look, I kind of see it this way, right? Like, Garrick still has that goal-kicking floor, and that's always going to be why he's a top 2 CTW in the game. Sharp, I think what he did on the weekend is repeatable just because he is a real ruck hunter. Like, he just absolutely, snoops around, and he's going to pick up tries like he did on the weekend.
He made 30 tackles again, Fletcher, in that game. And notably, he did get his hat-trick, but 2 of them weren't off line breaks, so just the one line break. It's a fun question.
Yeah, I think Sharp can be a top 10 CTW this season. I think Garrick is a top 2 CTW this season.
We know what the safe play is.
One's locked in,
that.
one's not.
I think it's Garrick every day of the week. I think Sharp's a good buy. I might get him this week. He's been great this year. He looks awesome. The Bunnies had no one, boys.
Speaking of romance, you could say I'm
Have
slightly...
you seen the Titan side, mate? Like, Sharp.
No,
Sharp
but look,
Sharp could do
if
it
you
again.
pick him one, I'm like, if you buy Garrick, you've got him for the 3 major buy-ins, and you've got a season keeper. Sharp, he could have a huge next 3 weeks for that draw, but just long term, it's Garrick.
My answer is actually definitely both, but yeah. Get them both. I'm getting both.
You won't, Gareth, yet?
Next week he's coming back.
Right.
Righto, boys. So a bit short on questions there. What I have been doing is rolling over any that we don't get to into the Beers and Break Even to late show. So big chance if we haven't got to it on this, it will be on that show later on with the Guru. So that'll do us. Spy, thank you.
Thanks, boys. Sorry about my rubbish joke before. I'll be better next week.
No, you won't.
Please. That's a rubbish joke as well. Just wanted to note 574 points between my top 5 boys last weekend. What a performance up in Magic Round. And final question, if someone can answer this, because they normally come my way. Bradman Best and Kalen Ponga, no line breaks in their stats. And they made a massive line break down the left edge to score a
Kick
try.
return?
They're allowed off kick returns, just not off errors. So if someone can solve that, that'd be great because... Yeah,
Is this you not being able to, or is it not seeing it properly at Magic Round because you were on the scoos?
Oh, it was the game we watched.
Yeah.
I saw it. I think they might have actually made a mistake. But yeah.
Interesting. Maxie, thank you, mate.
Mate, I'm very impressed with the how the lads have turned up, including Matty tonight. You've all done fantastic well. Thanks for having me on. If you see me again, you'll know I've beaten Timmy again.
Yes, you might indeed. All right, guys. Thanks for tuning in and have a great week.